Veronica, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad, I'm not too bad. So, I am very jealous of you because not only did you get to see the premiere of A Royal Hangover, but you got to see it in LA. So, I'm jealous for two reasons. So, I would be really interested in hearing about the premiere and about the film and anything else you'd like to share about it.
Yes, it was a hard life. I know, going to LA. It was great. I've seen the film twice now, and I met up with the producer, Gabrielle, and the filmmaker, Arthur Corti, who were over in LA for the premiere. And it's really, I just can't wait for it to come out in the UK. This film needs to be seen by the British people. It's so needed. It really is, hopefully the first step in just cracking this delusion we have about our binge drinking culture. You know what's really interesting? It's kind of made me sad when I was speaking to Arthur, the filmmaker, who's 28 and just doesn't like alcohol. Just never liked it, doesn't like the taste, doesn't like how it feels. I think he said he's been drunk once, didn't like it. And so it's a very personal film for him, and he shows in the film how when he was growing up and a teenager, I think he's the oldest of three boys. There were so many other interesting things to do. He started making little movies from when he was really young, and he started doing wrestling and all these. He was having so many adventures. He didn't have time to go out and be drunk and hungover. Plus, with his brothers, he saw them go out and get drunk and come back with, a black eye, or stay in bed all day on a Sunday, and was just like, it just didn't make any sense to him. He said, so I've been labelled weird my whole life. I've just, people see me as weird. And I was like, oh.
That's so sad.
Isn't that tragic? I mean,
yeah,
what?
It is.
Because he just doesn't like to get drunk. And I just thought that makes me really sad that a kid, and he's still a kid, I mean, compared to us, can just do something as harmless as not drinking and be labelled like that. And I think I don't think anything sums up how bad our problem is than that, really. So he had this natural curiosity as to what is this fascination that I just don't have, and so he really explores that. So he really looks at the history of drinking in the UK, and he really looks at how other countries view the British drinking. So it's kind of funny. He talks to the French and the Italians and Americans and says, when you think of the British, what do you think about? And they're automatically, getting drunk. Quite a few people a couple of Americans who came and spent a year studying in England and said, I drank so much more that year. And it's kind of like you're sitting there just kind of go, I feel a bit embarrassed about my fellow countrymen. And for former binge drinkers like me and you, he does quite a few. He goes what I call into the belly of the beast, and he takes his camera out on a Saturday night and films just an average night out in a city centre, and it's really quite horrific. What struck me is, he interviews some people in various stages of drunkenness, and they're all saying what a great time they're having, how much fun. They just want to have a laugh, just want to have fun. If you turned the sound down and showed that video to any random person and said, are these people having fun? They'd be like, no. It's ridiculous. And it's just, it's holding up a very uncomfortable mirror. And then he goes on to, why are we in this position? And he really makes some comparisons with the drug problem in the UK that has been given all of the funding, all of the attention, all of the services are really around, helping addicts, which compared to the problems alcohol causes are really in the minority. But the public don't have that perception. And then, how hard it is to get help if you have an alcohol problem. He interviews his uncle, who is a very chronic alcoholic, who has the first stages of a wet brain. I can't remember the technical term.
Wernicke-Korsakoff.
That's the one. Yeah, and that's really, really tough. And Arthur was saying he saw his uncle maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and he was all right. I mean, he's always been a drinker, but he was okay, and he was quite shocked at how far he had deteriorated, and how bad it was. And again, he asked his uncle, "Do you think you're an alcoholic?" And he's like, "Maybe." And it's very. His uncle, I think, is in his early 60s and has a teenage son, which is really, really tragic. So it's an uncomfortable film. It'll make people feel uncomfortable, people who don't drink and people who are still drinking, and those are the people that need to see the film. And I think it makes it very clear at the end. The answer is not prohibition. We're not saying don't drink. I just want a world where someone like Arthur cannot drink and nobody bats an eyelid. If you want to go out and behave and do that and cause that amount of damage to yourself, then I would like more honesty about that. I hate we're just having a laugh, it's just a bit of fun, because the cost so far outweighs the benefit of it. Sorry, the siren's going on past my window.
Okay.
And that's the kind of, that's what I hope the movie can achieve, is that we can start being just a bit more honest and about the reality. It really shows the reality. So I can't wait for you to see it and tell me what you think.
It's just so sad that he is, because it is a form of prejudice and stigma, really, if that's how he's perceived. And that's just, we have become so politically correct as a culture, not just in the US and the UK. That kind of behaviour is really not tolerated, and yet it's okay to be that way about someone who doesn't. It just seems really, really sad.
It made me, I just felt really sad, and I asked him, do you have peers who don't drink? Have you found? And he's like, no, I don't. I have friends. I have lots of good friends, and I don't really have a peer group of people that don't drink.
It's just.
And again, what struck me is he thankfully had the strength of personality and belief in himself, that the peer pressure, and he said he was under immense peer pressure at different times, that he just thought it was so silly that he never, succumbed to it. But, I think how many people who don't want to drink, or, even... What was really interesting, actually, I was there when my stepdaughter lives in LA, and she's 30, and she's a very, very moderate drinker. I mean, she goes out, she has a glass of wine, because she just doesn't really agree with her. She likes a glass of wine, but that's really it. And I said the difference between the UK and America is it's much more acceptable to not drink in America. And she's like, oh, I get pressured a lot. When I go out, she said, when I go out, people nearly always comment on how long it takes me to finish my drink, or why aren't I having another drink, and I was like, oh, wow, we got to just stop doing that.
Yeah, it's just, it's really, I don't know what to say, really. I mean, like you, I've got young children, and I don't want that to be their future. For, if they choose not to drink, for it to be such a big issue, and for them to feel pressurized to behave in this way just to fit in. That's the thing that's really, really, it frightens me, actually. It really frightens me that, it is so embedded in our culture, so embedded, that, I just wonder how on earth we're going to change it. It's just, and like you, I don't agree with prohibition either. I don't think that's the way forward. But this glamorizing and normalizing of very heavy binge drinking is just not. It's just not the way to go. I'm not saying that we have to go fully the other way, but as it is, we're in real trouble. We really are.
Well, we're mothers, and we've got a few years to sort that out, so I want that to be our mission.